A death world isn't just a dangerous planet. It's a planet the Imperium expects to kill you before you learn to survive on it. Entire regiments get raised on these worlds, not to conquer anything, but just because staying alive there for 20 years already makes you a better soldier than most of the galaxy. So let's go through the worst of them, one by one, and figure out why the Imperium keeps sending people to live there anyway. The Imperium sorts every planet it controls into a category. Hive worlds pack billions into vertical cities. Forge worlds build weapons. Agri worlds grow food. And then there's Death World, a classification that exists purely to warn people not to bring their guard down. A planet earns this label when the environment itself is actively trying to kill anyone who lives there. That can mean predators the size of tanks. It can mean weather that flips from freezing to boiling in the same day. It can mean plants that are carnivorous, air that's poisonous, or gravity that crushes normal human bone density over a lifetime. Here's the strange part. The Imperium doesn't always try to fix these worlds. Terraforming a death world into something livable takes resources most sectors don't have. So instead, people just stay, adapt, and get hard, really hard. And that toughness becomes valuable on its own. Catachan is the one most people picture first. It's a jungle world, but calling it jungle undersells it. The plant life is aggressive. Vines strangle, spores poison. Even the wildlife competes with itself before it gets around to the humans. The Catachan devils, the regiments this world produces, grow up learning which plants will kill them by age 6. Soldiers here don't get formal survival training the way other worlds do. Survival training is childhood. If you're still alive at 18, you already passed every test the Imperium would have run you through anyway. That's the detail that matters. On most worlds, the Imperium builds soldiers. On Catachan, the planet already built them, and the Imperium just hands them a lasgun afterward. Fenris is home to the Space Wolves, one of the Emperor's own Space Marine chapters. And the planet explains a lot about why that chapter fights the way it does. It's an ice world with brutal seasonal shifts-long winters that would kill unprepared settlers in days. But the cold isn't even the main danger. Fenris has monstrous native creatures, some large enough to be mistaken for myths by outsiders who haven't seen them firsthand. The tribes who live there don't farm in any conventional sense. They hunt, they raid each other, and they measure a person's worth by what they've survived. When Space Marine recruiters arrive to select candidates, they're not looking for the strongest kid in the village. They're looking for the one who's already outlived the ones who should have been stronger. Krieg is different from the other two, and this is where the story gets darker. Krieg wasn't always lethal by nature. It became a death world because of what happened on it, a planetary civil war that ended in nuclear devastation, leaving the surface scarred, irradiated, and hostile to normal life. The people who came after that war didn't inherit a paradise. They inherited ash, poisoned ground, and constant low-level radiation exposure. And out of that came the death corps of Krieg regiments known across the Imperium for treating their own survival as optional in service of the mission. This is the part worth sitting with. Most death worlds are deadly because nature made them that way. Krieg is deadly because people made it that way, and then their descendants had to live in the wreckage anyway. Nobody asked the second generation if they wanted this life. They just got born into it. Baal, Homeworld of the Blood Angels chapter, tells a similar kind of story. War scarred this world too, leaving deserts, radiation zones, and mutated wildlife where farmland used to be. People here don't get the option of an easy childhood. Mutation is common. Resources are scarce. And yet this broken world still produces some of the most renowned warriors in the Imperium. The connection isn't a coincidence, it's the same pattern showing up again. Hardship doesn't just kill the weak here. It filters for something the Imperium wants. Here's the twist worth sitting on for a second. because it explains everything above. You'd expect an empire spanning 1,000,000 worlds to prioritize saving its people from planets actively trying to murder them. It mostly doesn't. And the tease from earlier that a hard childhood makes a useful soldier is exactly why. The Astartes recruit heavily from death worlds because natural selection has already done the training. A person who survives 18 years on Catachan or Fenris has been tested by something far more consistent than any Imperial Guard boot camp. Nature doesn't take bribes, doesn't play favorites, and doesn't stop testing you just because you're tired. This is openly the same logic behind systems where the hardest environments are treated as talent pipelines instead of problems to solve, where struggle gets treated less like something to fix and more like a filter that produces exactly the kind of person the system wants at the top. Nobody says it out loud on Catachan, but the pattern is the same. None of this is free for the people living it. Kids on these worlds bury siblings before they're old enough to understand why. Parents teach survival skills instead of bedtime stories, because bedtime stories don't stop a Catachan devil worm from getting through a door. On Krieg, an entire population lives with radiation sickness as a background fact of daily life, the same way other worlds treat bad weather. And the ones who do survive to become soldiers rarely get to just be soldiers. They become symbols. Regiments raised entirely from a single death world carry that planet's reputation with them into every war they fight, whether they wanted the job or not. Here's what every one of these worlds ends up whispering to the people born on them: adapt or die. And there is no third option. Nobody's coming to terraform your planet. Nobody's shipping in enough resources to make daily life safe. What you get instead is exactly what's under your boots and exactly what's already trying to kill you. And yet people still live full lives here. They raise families between hunts. They pass down survival knowledge like other cultures pass down songs. Catachan parents still worry about their kids the normal way, just with slightly different things to worry about. Fenrisian tribes still tell stories around fires, they just happen to be stories about the thing that almost got them last winter. The Imperium doesn't need every death world to produce heroes. It just needs enough of them to keep proving that the ones who survive are worth the cost of everyone who didn't. Which death world do you think you'd actually survive on?